Good morning, Kings fans. Happy Monday. Welcome to the SackSportsNation.com's Kings Week podcast. I'm your host, Drew Runberg. You can find me on Twitter at Drew_Runberg. And I'm happy to say I'm not alone. I'm with my co-host here and beloved colleague, Trevor Wooler. You can find him on Twitter at Trevor Wooler, one word. Trevor, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Drew. Happy to all the Kings fans. Excited for the new season coming up. A lot of stuff going on.
Right. It's exciting, too, because today we aren't talking about free agency. We're not talking about rumors. We're not talking about the draft or combine. Today we're talking about real games. So
it's finally here.
It's finally here. The season is upon us. I think we are 23 days away from opening night against the Clippers, and that game is in Sacramento. But first, a little bit about this show. Like I said, it's called the Kings Week podcast. And the format of the show is we'll be coming out every week on Mondays, and we'll be breaking down the week ahead. So if there's 3 games for that week, we'll be breaking those 3 down, looking at matchups, potential injuries, points of emphasis, just to get the Kings fans, ready for the week ahead. So without further ado, why don't you start it off, Trevor? What is an NBA team? Let's take the Kings out for a second. Any NBA team, what do they look for? What do they hope to achieve in preseason?
So I think preseason in NBA is similar to NFL, where you're not looking at wins and losses at all. Mm-hmm. So any NBA fan, King fans, I'm not looking for W or L's right now. I'm looking at rotations. This is experimental time for George Karl to tinker and see what is going to work best with his dribble drive offense. So this is just looking at what players fit best together, because this has no impact on your seeding or your playoffs. So preseason for me, I don't even look at the score. This is for true basketball fans that want to see how the players' cohesion is doing and how they're developing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, and I would echo that, I think sometimes people will overreact to these preseason games. They'll put too much into it. I think there's, 8 or 9 games over a 3-week span. And I think a lot of Kings fans will overreact. But I encourage everyone to put a sticky note over the top right corner of their screen, cover that scoreboard, and again, just watch the games. Look for cohesiveness. It's a brand new team, much different than last year. So we have a lot of new players to look at, a lot of new matchups to look at. This is even George Karl's first full off season. So keep that in mind. He didn't get a full off season last year. He came in mid-season, and
which is a big deal.
It is a big deal. It is a big deal. And I, for one, and there's been a lot of rumors actually already about Boogie Cousins working with George Karl, and will that work? Will it won't? And could we potentially see George Karl get fired mid-season? But I'm adamantly against, in any sport, any event, mid-season coaching firings, because I think it sets the team back.
There's no purpose. There's no point.
No purpose.
Karl's had 5 or 6 months to implement his system. So, in terms of looking at the past 10 years as a Kings fan, this has got to be the most excited I am and Kings fans should be in a long while. You got a well-established coach who finally had an offseason to try to do something and let the team bond. And so that's a big deal that he had a lot of time.
Well, there certainly isn't many missing pieces. A lot of times you can look at a roster and say, well, our coach isn't quite there. We have a coach now, Hall of Famer George Karl, that everyone's excited about. We have an all-star in Boogie Cousins. Is Rudy Gay an all-star? Can he be a legitimate number 2 on a championship caliber team? I don't know. Maybe we'll get to that. But we now have a roster. We do have a team. We have a front office that we can be excited about. And I think we all are as we look forward. So let's get to it. Starting tonight is the first preseason game. It is the opener. Not in Sacramento. It's an away game, and it is against the Portland Trail Blazers. So, Trevor, when we look at this Portland team, what challenges do you think they pose to the Kings?
Well, a lot of what's been talked about the Blazers this offseason is just how, roster turnover. If you're talking about a team that rivals the Kings in terms of roster turnover, it's the Portland Trail Blazers. Losing 6 out of their 7 best players, and they went young. Now they're one of the 3 youngest teams. So a challenge that I think the Blazers could pose immediately to the Kings and to any team the Blazers are playing this year is just the pure athleticism. Terry Stotts has gone on record about how he wants to run. He wants to, and he has a bunch of athletic guys. Neil Olshey in the front office, he targeted athletic guys with untapped potential. And so a lot of these guys are raw. So this game's going to be rough in terms of turnovers and other things going on between the Blazers and Kings. But the pure athleticism just on the Blazers roster it looks really nice. You have Aminu, who came from Dallas, who's extremely athletic. Mason Plumlee is just out of this world. Ed Davis, Myers Leonard is a specimen, and then Mo Harkless that they picked up from Orlando is the most athletic guy on the roster. So it's going to be interesting to see the run and gun and to see the Blazers get out there.
Yeah, and you mentioned Stotts. He came a couple years ago via Dallas and their championship roster, and he coaches a lot like Dallas did, a lot of shooting, and he utilized that last year. He doesn't have that shooting anymore. They lose Wes Matthews, who was a great shooter for them, that paired well with their point guard Damian Lillard. But like you said, they lost 6 of their 7 best players. And as I look at this depth chart, as I look at this team, I see Damian Lillard, and to his credit, he's an all-star. He's a legit number 1 scorer. But I don't see a number 2 scorer.
No.
I don't see a number 3 scorer. A little bit has been said about C.J. McCollum, but I think at least early on, it looks like he'll be coming off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they have that 6th man, which is great to have, a Manu Ginobili type character, Jamal Crawford type of role. But if we're the Kings, why don't we just say, let's shut down Damian Lillard and make someone else beat us? Because I'm looking at shooting guard. Probable starter is going to be Gerald Henderson. He's a decent player, and much like Mason Plumlee, another addition that they made, he's a Duke player, high IQ player, but I'm not afraid of him beating me. Small forward, Al-Farouq Aminu, like you touched on, he's a good defender. He is athletic. He's young. He actually did shoot well in the playoffs, but that might have been a misleading sample size. Before that, he didn't shoot all that well. And then they've got a couple interesting bigs, Ed Davis, young Noah Vonleh, Mason Plumlee at center, Myers Leonard at center. I look at these guys and I say,
unproven,
raw, a lot of question marks, a lot of projects. And I think beyond Damian Lillard, they don't pose a threat on offense. So I think as we look at matchups, the one matchup I'm excited to see is the newcomer, Rajon Rondo. He was brought in to be a defensive role to help improve off of our team defense, which is one of the worst.
I think it was 27th in the NBA out of 30 at their defensive rating last year.
So that's going to be a point of emphasis this season. It has to be. And I think it has been in the offseason, like I said, bringing in Rajon Rondo. Interesting stat for you here, Trev. Rajon Rondo played against Damian Lillard head-to-head 3 times last year. Once with Boston with the Celtics, and then after the trade, twice with Dallas. Lillard averages 21 points. That's his average. Okay? So what do you think he put up against Rajon Rondo?
Ooh, that's a good question.
First little trivia for you. So again, Lillard averages, on average, 21 points a game.
So he played him twice in Dallas.
Twice in Dallas, once in Boston.
Okay. Well, Dallas was such an interesting experiment with Rondo, but I'm going to guess Lillard put up still 23 points a game. I think he played well.
He didn't.
Oh, really?
Lillard averaged 21 points a game, but against Rondo, through 3 games, Lillard averaged only 14.3.
Interesting. That's a big drop.
That's cutting his points down almost by a third.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Assist. He averaged 6.2 last season. Where do you have him against Rondo?
Well, Lillard's a pretty good playmaker, so I'm just going to assume if his scoring was down, he made up for his assists. So I'm going to say around 6 still. He's maintained his average.
He's down again.
Okay.
Same percentage, just about a third. So he went from 6.2 assists per game down to 4 against Rondo. Lastly, let's look at rebounds. He averaged 4.6 per game this season. Against Rondo, where do you think he's at?
I'm going to guess 3.
He's actually up in this category.
Okay.
So he rebounded pretty well. He averaged six rebounds a game against Rondo. This is the scariest one. Lillard averaged 2.7 turnovers per game. How did he do against Rondo?
Oh gosh, the way you said that makes me. I'm gonna guess around 4.
4.3.
Really?
So that's 1.6 turnovers more than his average, which is fantastic. And there's been the addition of Rondo has been pretty polarizing, and a lot of people doubt whether he's still the defensive stopper that he was in Boston. And I think there's times that it proves that he's not, but I think this number alone proves that he is. So when I'm looking at the matchups, I say all we need to do is stop Lillard. And I think Rondo clearly is the guy to do that. So that's the matchup I'm looking for in this game.
And it's interesting because Lillard, he's an all-star, but he actually had a down shooting year overall last year.
Right.
His field goal percentage wasn't anything to brag about, 43.4% and 34.3 from beyond the arc. So, and he's their best scoring option right now. Mm-hmm. There's no one else. So yeah, that's a key matchup to look at. And if Rondo can shut that down, and like I said before, we preface, this shouldn't only be about wins and losses, but about this matchup specifically, I'm a Kings fan. And if I'm owner Vivek and I'm the front office, and there's been so much controversy over the Rondo signing, is it good for the team, and everything that happened in Dallas with Coach Carlisle and walking out, I want to see Rondo come out at the Moda Center on fire in terms of his energy and his passion into the game. That's the matchup I'm looking forward to. Is I want to see that because I want to see Rondo put behind all the controversy he had in Dallas, and to show the King fans, that's not going to happen anymore. Because that's what I'm worried about. Is that going to carry over to the Kings where this lackluster attitude? I don't want to see that. Even though it's a preseason game and he maybe only plays 20 minutes, I want to see him diving on the floor and D'ing up Lillard and not taking any plays off.
Well, and he does have a lot to prove. He has a lot of doubters to prove wrong, and this is his first opportunity. He's on a 1-year contract, so it behooves him to play well this season, and it behooves him to start off well.
It's all mental, too. If you start off with the preseason right, that can carry over. So
Absolutely. Well, like you said, it's the preseason for any team is about establishing a rhythm, establishing a cohesiveness, and getting things ready for the beginning of the season. Portland is... Recently, Vegas put out their numbers and predictions for the season. Portland's predicted at 26.5 wins, which will be good enough for 14th in the West, second to last. I have to think they might be even lower than this. I have them in my power rankings as 29th overall in the league, above only Philadelphia.
Which isn't saying much.
No, it's not saying much at all. Let's close Portland off here. Who do you have winning this game, Trevor?
I got the Kings winning this game pretty handily. I'm going to go Kings winning by 15-plus points. The Trailblazers just such a warehouse change on their roster. They haven't played that much together at all. A bunch of rookies. You have someone like Rondo and Cousins, who the Blazers are not looking to go to the playoffs this year. The Kings are. Mm-hmm. And they have veteran guys in Boogie and Rondo. I would like to think that they're going to come out and start off the season on a right note and put these young Blazers guys who are going to just be miscommunicating all over the place on defense. The Blazers should be a mess on defense. I looked at the Kings putting this one away.
Yeah, I don't think Mason Plumlee, Myers Leonard, Ed Davis, Noah Vonleh, I don't think they have a chance at stopping Boogie Cousins. Those guys can't even come close to it. So between slowing down Damian Lillard, the one threat on the team, and just no chance to stop Cousins on the other end, I've got the Kings winning this handedly. Moving on to Game 2, it's just 2 nights later. It'll be October 7th, and that is again an away game at Phoenix. We're running into a tougher opponent here, Trev. So Vegas has Phoenix winning 36.5 games. That's 10th, good enough for 10th in the West. What do you see when you look at this lineup?
So the Suns, the Suns are kind of interesting too. They had a lot going for them with Dragic and Isaiah Thomas, and then it just didn't end well. That three-headed monster at the point guard, and they got Brandon Knight. So the Suns are in limbo in terms of, are we rebuilding or are we going for the playoffs? And sometimes their roster and their front and their actions, their front office, I don't know. I can't tell what they're trying to do. So this preseason is important for the Suns as well. And this is a good matchup because it's going to be two teams that are fighting for that 8th and 7th playoff spot in the West. Because we're pretty certain, actually, I'm 99% certain we know the top 6 seeds in the West in terms of playoffs.
I would even say top 7.
Yeah, I would say, okay, I didn't want to go that far, but yeah, top 7 are pretty much carved in stone. And it's really between Utah, Phoenix, and hopefully Sacramento bumping up here. So this is going to be a good matchup. It should be a rivalry this year. Something that a matchup that I'm particularly looking forward to in this game is Willie Cauley-Stein against Markieff Morris and Tyson Chandler. The Kings drafted Willie Cauley to be that defensive guy. I mean, so much has been said about how he can switch on any single pick and he can guard any single player on the floor because of his unique foot speed for being almost a 7-footer. And Markieff Morris, he has got a classic stretch 4-man. So I'm interested to see how he defends on the pick and rolls, and if they're switching, if he can get back fast enough on the pick and pop to get back to Markieff and guard him out there. And then also Tyson Chandler, his offense is only pick and rolls. He doesn't post up. He rolls and dunks off alley-oops. So it's going to be interesting for me to see when Willie Cauley-Stein comes in, how he defends on Tyson Chandler, and if he, how fast he can hedge off the ball screens if he comes back to Tyson Chandler, because that's where Boogie has struggled with his foot speed. So these are two unique players that have two skill sets that the Kings specifically drafted Willie Cauley-Stein for. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Right. Well, it is an interesting matchup, and I think it'll be an interesting matchup when we get to the regular season. Kings fans need to follow this Suns team because, as we said, I really think that the top 7 seeds are almost set in stone, barring injuries. That 8th seed is what everyone's going after, and there's a lot of teams going after that one spot and have a viable chance at getting it. Phoenix is one, Utah is another, Sacramento is yet another.
Dallas
is one as well. So we'll need to keep an eye out on this Phoenix team, and especially in the head-to-heads with them, against them, we're going to need to get those wins because that might come back later on in a possible tiebreak scenario. And when I look at this, I see this is a point guard team. This is a ball handlers team. And the names that jump off the page to me are Brandon Wright and Eric Bledsoe. As you said, they changed. They dealt Goran Dragic to the Heat last year. They were able to bring in Brandon Knight to save a little bit of face from Milwaukee. And Brandon Knight's a baller. He's not one to be underestimated.
No.
And there's been a little bit of talk about, and I think they'll get some minutes together. How much, I'm not sure, but of playing Rajon Rondo and Darren Collison together. So it's another dual guard lineup to look something like how Phoenix runs with Brandon Knight and Eric Bledsoe. I would love to see those two face off against each other. I'd love to see Brandon Knight, Eric Bledsoe going against Rajon Rondo and Darren Collison, just to get a look at that lineup, how it operates, and defensively, that's what they might have to go with. Can McLemore at the 2 guard Bledsoe? Can his backup Bellinelli guard Bledsoe? That's a for sure no.
That's a no.
It might be a challenge to guard these two guys, and it might force the hand to bring in that dual guard lineup. So I'm excited to see that. However, if it comes to that, I'm a little bit concerned. Last year, Brandon Knight and Eric Bledsoe, this is freakish, but they both averaged 17.0 points a game. So that combines for 34 points a game. How many points do you think Rondo and Collison averaged last year combined?
22.
25.
Not bad. Kind of close.
It's not bad, but that's still a -9.
I meant my guess. No, that's a huge gap.
Oh, yeah. No, good guess. But they still lose 9 points there.
That's a big gap.
Yeah, it's a big gap. So maybe they're forced into that, but maybe that's not the best lineup to go with against a similar set. And I think Bledsoe's the X factor here. I think he's absolute, because I think he poses a challenge, like I said, to Macklemore. This is going to be a big opportunity. In an article recently I wrote about this, I said Macklemore this is his year. If the Kings are going to make that 8 seed or higher, it's really going to come down to Macklemore.
Absolutely.
That's the margin. The margin between where the Kings are last season and next season, it really it's going to come from a lot of areas, but the biggest room for improvement is going to be with Macklemore. And so I want to see what Macklemore's got here, because this is a good opportunity to see the dual guard lineup, but it's also an opportunity for Macklemore to show us what he's got, and he's in for a big challenge against Eric Bledsoe.
And let's be honest in terms of Macklemore and, in his necessary improvement for the team. So much of the offseason and so much of analyzation of players is on their offensive end of, I got in shape, he worked on his shooting form, everything like that. The Kings were 27th out of 30 defensive rating last year, 109.2. That means for every 100 possessions on the court, they gave up 109 points.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah.
And so Macklemore's already he's a solid offensive player. He's nothing spectacular. Where he needs to see improvement for the whole team to get the 8 spot is, I'm focusing more on the defensive end than I am the offensive end. We got 2 scorers in Gay and Boogie. Boogie's the best center in the league. He's going to put it in the hoop. Carl's going to get them to score points. I'm not worried about that. I am worried about guarding, and specifically can Macklemore guard, because some points last year he just kind of got torn to shreds. And for the Kings to take the next step, he's going to have to make a leap on the defensive end, and that starts with guarding an elite player like Eric Bledsoe, which is an extreme challenge for him.
Right. Well, then here's the thing, though. Once we look past the guards, I don't know what we're looking at with Phoenix. They've got Markieff Morris, who's a solid player. He's really scrappy. He plays hard. I think he's lacking, though, in just sheer talent. They bring in Tyson Chandler, and if you remember, really, Tyson Chandler was brought in to kind of woo and help impress and sign LaMarcus Aldridge to the team. They traded away Marcus Morris in order to make room for Tyson Chandler. And LaMarcus Aldridge obviously didn't come. He went to Sacramento, or he didn't go to Sacramento. He went to San Antonio.
We wish.
We wish, yeah. The breaking news.
Yeah.
But no, they get Tyson Chandler, and they don't land LaMarcus Aldridge. So you're going to lose a lot of scoring. Marcus Morris alone shot 36% from three-point land last season. They also lost Gerald Green. He went to Miami in free agency. Gerald Green shoots 35% from three-point land. So they lost a lot of shooting from what they had last year, and they get Tyson Chandler, who one of the best rebounders in the game. He's actually the 5th best rebounder in all of the NBA. But you know what? Boogie, with 12.7 a game, is the 3rd best. So even that strength is really overcome by the Sacramento Kings here. So I think if we can endure, if we can persevere through the gauntlet that is Eric Bledsoe and Brandon Knight, I think we have a good chance here. And it's kind of a classic guards versus big men. If it comes down to who has a better big man, I think it goes to the Kings handedly. Who has the best guards, honestly, I think I have to go with the Suns here.
Absolutely. I mean, we have 2 proven players in Bledsoe and Knight. And Macklemore we don't know exactly what's going to show up. But this is good. This is what the preseason is for.
It is.
And this is what it's for. So even a loss here, and if we're going to predictions now, I am actually I'm going to predict the Suns taking this one in a close one. But if I'm a Kings fan and I'm Kings fans watching this game, if we lose by 5 or 7 points, but I see Macklemore out there showing improvement to guarding the pick and roll and being able to slide, and no hand checks out there on the perimeter on Bledsoe, which is one hell of a task because that's super hard to do. I come away encouraged from this game if we see if Bledsoe and Knight explode for 30 each. I'm not feeling too happy. But I can leave encouraged with the loss if we show some improvement on that side of the ball.
Absolutely. Well, I have the Kings here by a sliver of a victory. I just think we have decent enough guards to at least slow down to stay up with Eric Bledsoe and Brandon Knight. But I don't think they have the players around the other positions to stay up with us. One thing about Phoenix, they play really hard. They're probably one of the hardest playing teams in the league. Hornacek he's probably the most underrated coach in the league as well.
I agree, and it's interesting of their contract situation there. It seems like he has a rocky relationship with the front office in Phoenix, which I don't think he should be. I think they have a gem there.
Right. Well, I mean, we're good on a coach, but man, he is an excellent coach. In the last 3 seasons, he's had Phoenix out and running early. Each of the last 3, they've dipped down as the season's gone along, but season after season, he has a lackluster Phoenix roster, overachieving, and I expect them to do some of the same here. I think Vegas has them at 10th in the West. That's probably where I'd have them as well, but I do have the Kings squeaking a win out here. Ready to move on to our last game, Trev?
Yep. 3 games. Okay, they're packing them in this week.
They are. Yes, we've got 3 this week, 2 next week. And then, so the third one here is a night later, and it is October 8th, and we finally get to come home to sweet, sweet Sacramento. And we're playing against the San Antonio Spurs.
Ugh.
Trev, Vegas has these guys at 58.5 wins. That's good enough for second in the West, only behind the Golden State Warriors.
You know, I try to follow the mantra that you can't dethrone a champion in the offseason after they just won. So it's hard for me to say that I don't think the Warriors are going to win it again after they just, put together one of the greatest seasons statistically that the NBA has seen in a while. But this Spurs roster is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. So I have them in my predictions going first in the West. And LaMarcus Aldridge signing is unbelievable. But this is the key here. David West gave up $13 million to go play for the San Antonio Spurs to be a backup to Tim Duncan and LaMarcus Aldridge because he wants a ring. And that is a testament to the culture Greg Popovich has built in San Antonio, that a veteran all-star like David West would be willing to give up $13 million to go and be in a culture like that. So, I mean, this Spurs team, they have continuity. They know exactly what they're doing. And the players that they did add, like Aldridge and David West, they're veterans enough where I'm not worried about them picking up on the system too well, especially with Pop as a coach. So, this game is going to be an interesting one. I think the Spurs won't have that much issue. I have no idea. And with Popovich, even the regular season, you have zero clue on terms of playing minutes for his starters. For all we know, Tim Duncan and LaMarcus Aldridge could sit this game because the beloved Pop. You never know what's going to happen. But a key matchup that I see here between the Spurs and the Kings is I'm really looking at Boogie at this one. Mm-hmm. The last 2 we've talked about developing players, and we've just kind of put Boogie as dominating the opposing centers, which he should. But this one, he's playing against veterans in Tim Duncan, LaMarcus, and David West. And see, we're hungry, right? I have to win games. That's why you play the game. So if I'm Boogie and I'm going against the favorite team in the West, even though it's a preseason, I want to see a mental attitude of taking it to Tim Duncan and LaMarcus Aldridge, as I talked about with Rajon Rondo. For me, this preseason is about setting the tone for the Kings because there's been so many seasons of just lackluster finishes and just uncertainty. You want zero uncertainty entering the regular season. You want to have positive experiences building off the preseason, which includes Boogie dominating against probably the best front court in the NBA now with Tim Duncan and LaMarcus Aldridge.
Absolutely. Well, and David West, as you touched on, I look at it, Portland should be a cakewalk, a dress rehearsal. Phoenix should be competitive. San Antonio is going to be a challenge. And as you touched on, I like the idea of this game. This is probably the highlight of the week here. They saved the best for last for us. And what it is, it's going to be a measuring stick for us. We might not be good enough for first or second in the West this year. We might not be contenders. But we should improve off of our standings last year substantially. How much? I think we're going to find out when we play San Antonio. Like you said, they're so deep. LaMarcus Aldridge, David West, Tim Duncan, even Boris Diaw, who's a guy who does the little things right. He spreads the floor, spaces well. Mm-hmm. He understands timing. He's a great passer for a big man. Kawhi Leonard, who is just a defensive stopper. You got Danny Green, who was able to resign. And then Manu Ginobili coming off the bench as that sixth man still. It's going to be tough, but let's take another look at LaMarcus Aldridge here because he was other than LeBron James, who wasn't really a free agent this year. Technically he was, but I don't think there was any doubt.
For a second, I got scared.
I thought he was going to Philadelphia for a second.
Really?
It's a city of brotherly love, and they've got great sandwiches.
Oh.
Which I've heard he's into. But who isn't into great sandwiches? Well, he ended up in Cleveland again.
Which would have been hysterical if he left Cleveland after one season.
Right. Talk about hard to get.
Yeah.
So he went to Cleveland. I watched LaMarcus Aldridge in the playoffs last year because I think, especially in these top flight free agents, what you want to see is how they perform in the playoffs as well. Some are stat sheet fillers, and we've seen these guys get buckets of money and then kind of flounder afterwards. Lance Stevenson's a good example. Although he did great in the playoffs a couple years ago, that's what got him his big contract. But as I watched LaMarcus Aldridge last year against Memphis, he got pushed around. Granted, it's against Memphis, who's probably the most physical team in the entire NBA,
yes,
going against a combination of Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph. Marc Gasol is a pretty massive guy. He's dropped substantial weight in the last 2 seasons, but he's still really strong, really physical. And LaMarcus Aldridge has had the tag in the past of being soft.
Which he hates.
He
hates that, but
there's some some truth there.
There's the part of the reason why he hates it so much is because he knows some
deep down inside.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing: we brought in Willie Cauley-Stein. He'll play center. Costa Koufos as well was an excellent free agent signing. He'll play center as well. What this enables, though, is Boogie Cousins to play power forward. It allows him to be more of a scorer. Now, don't get me wrong. He may not be the most traditional power forward, but I think what we're seeing in the league going to positionless basketball. I hate that term. What I like to call it as is multi-positional. So if you're a 2, you need to be able to either play the 1 as well or the 3 as well. If you're a 3, you should probably be able to play the 4, as I think we'll see with Rudy Gay. But I think down low, what we'll see this year with the Kings is semantics. Are you the 4? Are you the 5? Doesn't matter. You'll see Cauley-Stein play the 5. You'll play Cauley-Stein play the 4. You'll see DeMarcus Cousins play the 4. You'll see DeMarcus Cousins play the 5.
Mm-hmm.
Costa Koufos, he might be the only one that's locked into playing the 5, but still, he's going to be a big body down low. Going back to the LaMarcus Aldridge matchup, I think it's going to be LaMarcus versus Cousins there. I think that's going to be an option where we can kind of open this team up a little bit, and I think Boogie's the one to push Aldridge around a little bit, get him off of his game, and maybe there's an opportunity to sneak a win here.
There is an opportunity. I still have the Spurs winning this one just because of their roster and everything. And let's not forget the X factor in this game, Drew, which is the return of our boy Jimmer. Back to Sleep Train. And, I hope to see some 32 purple jerseys littered, or number 7, littered throughout the arena.
I think there will be. Leading jersey seller still to this day.
Is he really?
I got that off Wikipedia.
That's unbelievable.
It is. Well,
the guy is a legend. So, fact about Trevor is I attended BYU, the college Jimmer attended,
right,
and I actually worked as a basketball manager for the BYU men's basketball team for 3 years. I started the year after Jimmer Mania, the senior year, so I wasn't there for all the craziness. But sometimes people forget is that next season in 2011-2012 is when we had the lockout, or the threat of the lockout. So Jimmer was hanging out in Provo working out with the BYU team for all of September and all of October because of everything that was going on. And I got to scrimmage with him a little bit. I got to watch him play. I got to rebound for him. And the dude is first off just high caliber, high quality dude. But I think he's just looking for the right situation, and this is the Spurs. He's not a guaranteed contract with the Spurs. He's not. So this 8-game season preseason is a big deal for him. He needs to come out and he needs to convince Pop that he can be a rotational player in the Spurs machine. And I just watched a 7-minute video online of Jimmer and his shooting. The Spurs Pop gave him specific shooting drills that they wanted.
This is a current video.
This is a current video. Okay. I should have looked up the website, but if you Google like Jimmer and Spurs shooting, drill, you should find it. It's the specific shooting drill Pop assigned for him based off the spots Jimmer will shoot in his offense, and he shot 87 out of 100. And while there's no defender, these were game speed shots, and you get tired after a while. And, I mean, he hasn't lost a stroke. I mean, he hasn't lost the part of Jimmer's game. So it's just a fun tidbit, Jimmer coming back to Sleep Train.
Oh, I think it'll be fun.
It's going to be fun, and I'm rooting for the kid.
There are a substantial amount of, jokes aside, there's a substantial amount of Fredette jerseys.
There are. There's still Jimmer fans.
So okay, let's take another prediction. Does Jimmer Fredette make this team? Does he make this roster?
I think he does.
Okay.
He's
He's competing against former Sacramento King Ray McCallum, who came over in a trade.
And he is, and Ray's a great player as well. But you look at some of the key players in past San Antonio Spurs runs, which were players like Gary Neal and even Marco Bellinelli. And I'm not comparing them defensively or anything because Jimmer and those two are different players. But Spurs needed guys off the bench like Neal and Bellinelli to do instant offense, instant threes. And if there's one talent that Jimmer still can have in the NBA, because after 3 seasons, I think it's pretty clear in terms of his defensive ability and his ability to attack off the dribble. He's not going to be. He doesn't have the NBA caliber starting talent on those areas, but shooting he does, and that's what the Spurs need. I think he's going to make it. You know what? Little tidbit here. I'm calling 5 made threes in the game for Jimmer.
5 made threes.
5 made threes.
5 for how many? How many attempts?
He's going 5 for 7.
Okay.
He's gonna light the arena on fire and he's gonna make it fun a little bit.
Well, we covered the USA basketball back earlier in the summer, and one thing about USA basketball that Jerry Colangelo talks about is he wants a good starting 5, solid starting 5, and then he wants another 3 that can fill in behind them, and then he wants about 3 to 4 specialists. That might be defensive specialists, so like a Kawhi Leonard, for example.
Like Andre Iguodala on the team.
Andre Iguodala. They might not be the best, best 15 players in the world from America, from the NBA, but they're specialists, and that's what he looks for. That might be Jimmer Fredette's selling here, is as that specialist, come off the bench, hit a couple trays, and 5 for 7 would definitely help that cause.
I hope. I'm a fan of the guy, and I hope it happens. But
is he the Tim Tebow of basketball?
You know what? I thought about that a lot.
They have similar stories.
They do have
paths.
Christian, white dudes who just were during the Tebow and Jimmer hype and their respective college seasons. They were the highlight of everything.
Right.
Of everything. I mean, Jimmer had rap lyrics after him. He was everywhere, and I think he is the Tebow of the NBA.
Well, let's back away from Jimmer here. Let's look at another kind of success story of a college stud who changed his game and actually became a legitimate NBA player. I'm talking about J.J. Redick. Similar type of player. He's a little bit bigger than Jimmer, but he's not athletic. He moves really well without the ball. Again, that's a small thing. That's a small element to someone's game. But just a knockdown shooter. Might not be the best defender, but he improves. He came into the league, I don't know if you remember this, probably do, with a Gonzaga All-American Adam Morrison. Adam Morrison came in. The stash, right?
Long live the stash.
Well, the stash no longer lives. He lives on the Gonzaga bench now.
And he lives very financially well, which is an interesting story for another day, but I read an article about how the stash invested all of his NBA money. He doesn't have to work another day the rest of his life.
Smart man.
Smart man.
Not talented, but
don't tell people from Spokane that. I have a couple college roommates from Spokane, and they worship the ground Adam Morrison walks on.
Oh yeah. Well, there's
he has a ring.
There's a reason why this is a podcast and not a live show.
That's true.
Especially in Spokane. But my point is here that tale of two players. Both were All-Americans. I think they were co-player of the years, if I remember.
I'm pretty sure you're correct.
One didn't work on the small facets of his game. One wasn't able to improve. One wasn't able to reinvent himself. Whereas J.J. Redick, it took him a couple years through Orlando, but he's found his place. He's not a star, but he's found his place in this league. And I think this is a big year for Jimmer Fredette. It's probably his last chance. He's Tim Tebow with Philly right now. Didn't work out for Tebow, but maybe it works out with Fredette.
I hope so. I'm King fans. All Kings fans, I think, are hoping so too.
Right.
They loved him in Sacramento.
So, prediction for the San Antonio game?
I got Spurs winning. Pretty handily.
I have to agree with you. As much as I want to say otherwise, but again, this is the game I'm most excited about because we'll see really where our team stacks up with the best in the league.
Yeah, and disclaimer again for all fans: wins and losses do not matter.
Right.
This is for basketball fans that are looking for development in terms of the players. So I could care less if the Spurs win by 10. I care about the development and more than just development. I care about the attitude of the players. I want to see Boogie and Rondo trying because it's all about setting the tone right now.
Well, I think they're going to face adversity in this game here.
Absolutely.
How are they going to respond? They, like we said, Blazers they lack talent, but they're young and they might play hard. They've got some high IQ players, so there's a little bit of a challenge there. Effort and IQ usually equate to good things. Phoenix, like we said, Hornacek always has them overachieving, playing really hard. There's a little bit of a challenge there. But no one has the intelligence, no one has the players, the coaching that San Antonio has. They're going to face the most adversity in this third game. And I'm like you, I want to see, win or loss, how do these guys respond to adversity? How do they respond throughout runs? Are they going to roll over? A lot of times that's how NBA games go. You have to watch the first quarter, maybe the second quarter. After that, a lot of games are over at that point, and you can just go home.
Yeah, and some people might say that we're thinking too much about these preseason games, over analyzing because these don't really matter. I could maybe buy that for the Warriors or for the Spurs, who know exactly what they got and what's going to happen, and they just want to save their players. But that's bull for the Kings. These games matter. I'm tired of hearing that, and we've got to see people trying. We've got to see that right tone.
Right.
It matters.
Right. So I'm excited for these 3 games. I have them going. What is it?
You have them 2-1.
2-1. You have them 1-2. We'll re-examine next week. We have a few minutes here, Trev. So I want to look a little bit deeper at this Sacramento roster because, as most of us know, starters might play half the game, and this is a really opportunity to see what we have deeper as we go down the roster. These guys, they won't all make the team.
No.
So what are we looking for from these guys? There's Duke Dukin, Omri Caspi's on, Caron Butler's on, Rudy Gay's on, DeMarcus is on, Costa Kufos is on, Willie Cauley-Stein and Quincy Acey are on.
Bellinelli's on.
So we've got James Anderson, we've got Seth Curry, David Stockton.
Seth Curry, did he not sign a guaranteed 2-year contract?
He is, but it's you have to take guarantee with a grain of salt. If it's small enough, it might as well be unguaranteed. Okay. And it is a fairly small contract. I think
2 years, around $2 million.
Yeah, I think he's pretty set. I think, and that's he's probably the player I'm most excited to see is Seth Curry. Because I think there's a lot of excitement about him, but we have to remember, I think it's more of a case of he actually made the Kings as opposed to the Kings signed him.
Yeah.
It's not like there was a bunch of teams after his services. No. It's not like we were, bidding with, Philadelphia or Golden State or some other team out there.
He proved himself in the Summer League.
He won this roster spot. He won the roster spot. Now he just has to take care of business.
I went to Summer League this year in Vegas. And
how was it?
It was, first off, if you're a basketball fan, everyone needs to experience at least one time in Summer League. There's nothing like it. I mean, for basketball nerds like us, it's just fun walking in around the Thomas and Mack in Vegas and seeing Zach Lowe walking around. I mean, I thought that was cool. I think it's cool. And if you get there early enough, you're sitting front row or 4 seats behind, so you get to see the players interact. And and usually on the roster, there's only like 2 or 3 people really worth watching because the rest of them are just filler guys trying to get experience and exposure and playing time. But great experience. Crazy fans there too. That's a whole other story. But I saw Seth Curry play in the Orleans, and the guy can fill it up. There's comparisons to his brother. He's different in terms of like how he fills it up in the basket, but the bottom line is he's like Stephen, is he can get it done.
Okay.
And so I'm excited to see that, except there's a huge logjam back here for point guards with Collison, Rondo, Curry, and David Stockton.
Well, I have a confession.
Uh-oh.
I have a man crush, and it's on my boy David Stockton.
Oh, gosh.
I have followed him, I'm a huge Gonzaga fan, as I think you are as well. Followed Stockton all 4 years throughout Gonzaga. Didn't get drafted, ended up on the Reno Bighorns. He had a great year with Reno. And you watch him play, he's an exceptional ball handler, exceptional passer. He was actually used a lot differently than he was in Gonzaga. They run a run and gun system in Reno. It's a little bit chaotic, but it kind of works for them, kind of doesn't because the record is still questionable. But it was fun to watch David Stockton in that medium because it really showed off what he can do. He's a much better shooter than what he showed in college. He's a much better creator. He was the floor general in Gonzaga, but he was the creator, much like Steve Nash. He's going to be compared to John Stockton, his dad, all the time. But he plays a lot more like Nash. Penetrates through the lane, comes back around, breaks the defense up, finds gaps, and somehow delivers a pass through 3 inches of space. Problem with Stockton is he's extremely small.
He's tiny.
John Stockton's 6'1", and he was small.
That's
what people don't realize is Stockton was 6'1". John Stockton was 6'1".
Is David Stockton not 5'11"?
He's 5'10".
He's 5'10".
So you think John Stockton was small, you lose 3 inches, and you get David Stockton.
So as a manager for the BYU basketball team, I worked every home game, and I was on the floor working the game. So for 3 seasons, I was right up next to David Stockton within 5 feet of him, and I tower over the guy, and I'm 6'2". The guy is tiny, so that is an issue.
Right. Well, and I think as a man who has another crush on a man, it gives me great disappointment to say that although I think Stockton brings more, I kid you not, I think he brings more to the table offensively than Seth Curry. I think Seth Curry brings more to the table defensively, where David Stockton, he's just not to this level, unfortunately.
No.
Not only is he 5'10", but he's not Nate Robinson. He's not built like an NFL running back. He is short and he is skinny and he's extremely light. And when you're going against players like Chris Paul, who is built like a Nate Robinson, super muscular guys.
Russell
Westbrook. On a nightly basis, point guards aren't these little small guys anymore.
No.
They're the most athletic and they're getting stronger and stronger year in, year out.
Which is a sad fact about Stockton, which is sad because the dude truly understands the game of basketball.
Right.
You can see
his IQ is off the charts.
You can see his father in him, John. You can see how he tutored him and the tutelage he had under his father. But in terms of being a playoff contributor, because the Kings' goal this season, let's be clear, is the 8th seed. We want it. Off-season signings, this is our goal. It's boom or bust. We spent too many years in the lotteries. We've traded away too many lottery picks. It's time for us to get to the playoffs. And David Stockton's not going to be a contributor to that.
Well, I'm heartbroken, but he's too much of a liability to make a legitimate team here. I am looking forward to another wonderful year with the Reno Bighorns. I'll be watching them on their YouTube channel.
He turns into like an Oscar Robinson up there. He's just getting triple doubles. And
he is. It's unbelievable. And he's quite the highlight reels as well. Fun games to watch. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of Seth Curry and David Stockton.
Now, question for you: the roster I have in front of me from ESPN.com does not have Eric Moreland on the roster.
Right?
Is he's still in play here? Correct?
He still is. Yeah, they released him and they actually brought him back. And I think there's a lot of positive energy around Eric Moreland. I think he brings a lot to the table. Athletic guy. I think he is one that can play multiple positions.
He can.
And that's what you need to be able to do in today's NBA.
I watched a whole Kings game, and you can ask my friends there. After that game, I came away and said Eric Moreland will make an NBA roster.
What, in Summer League you mean?
In Summer League.
Yeah.
He was by far the best, which isn't saying a lot, but on that Summer League court, he was by far the best offensive threat and the most polished down the post. I'm not talking about like a a guy who doesn't really have any post moves. Eric Moreland is polished down there. He can pivot, he can duck, he can dive, he can pump fake. I was extremely impressed, and I'm going to be disappointed if he doesn't make this roster because I think Moreland could have the possibility of being a playoff contributor in terms of injuries happen or something like that.
Well, if he doesn't end up on Sacramento, I agree with you. I think he's going to end up on some NBA roster.
Yeah.
He'll be the 14th, 15th man somewhere. So hopefully it's with the Kings.
I'm just declaring he's my man crush now.
That's your man crush.
I'm vocalizing it to the world.
That's who you're taking to the dance. Boutonniere.
What?
Do you go boutonniere?
I go boutonniere, yeah.
Do you go necktie or bow tie?
I go no tie.
No tie?
No tie.
How many buttons unbuttoned?
Miami
Vice style?
Yeah, Miami Vice. I kind of try,
I go bow tie, but it's a little bit hipster for me.
Confession, I actually didn't go to my senior prom in high school.
You didn't?
No, there wasn't. I asked a girl, she couldn't go.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't want to spend $300 on a girl I didn't want to go with.
Smartest decision you've ever made,
and I'm $300 richer because of it.
You're
still
a rich
to this
man.
day. So,
hey, lesson learned. I kind of feel like I should have done the same thing because I don't have the $300 you have now.
No, you don't.
And I don't even remember who my date was. So,
see?
Very forgettable.
Unless you marry the girl from senior prom, it's not as big as deals people make it out to be.
Which I didn't.
So,
yeah.
Well, we live and we learn.
We live and we learn. You have anything else you want to touch on here, Trev?
I think that's it. Just overall, first off, I hope everyone enjoys the podcast. Please, on Twitter, once again, I'm at Trevor Wohler. Tweet us suggestions on what you would like to see at this podcast. If you liked our breakdown of matchups to watch and predictions, whatever you want. We want to make this for you, Kings fans, something for you to come listen to every week and get a very good idea on what to look for and what are the keys for the Kings, the victories. Because really the NBA season, 82 games, is so long, you have to break it up week by week. You have to win week by week. You can't say, we need to win 54 games. You have to say, we need to go 3-1 this week.
Right.
Or it's a road trip with a back-to-back. We can go 2-2 this week. So that's what I'm hoping this podcast brings is it breaks it down because this is how you go to the playoffs, is by breaking it down like this.
So I have them 2-1. You have them 1-2.
Yes, sir.
We'll see how we do next week. Follow me at Drew_Runberg. And Trevor, what's your Twitter handle again?
At Trevor Wohler.
And we're very open to debates, so get at us when you get the opportunity. Have a great week, and go Kings.
See you, Kings.